Welcome back. The objective in any election is obviously to get more votes than your political rivals, but there is something to be said for the way in which Pakistan's opposition parties campaigned and garnered more votes than Musharraf's PMLQ backers. Some critics say their winning tally is more about a vote against Musharraf than actually a vote for the opposition parties. And a look back over the last year certainly adds weight to that. Musharraf's suspension of Chief Justice Iftikhar Muhammad Chowdhury in March 2007 brought thousands of protesters onto the streets. Months later, Musharraf announced a state of emergency to stifle the backlash. He also faced harsh criticism in July 2007 for his handling of the Red Mosque siege, where more than 100 people died, soldiers and civilians. And then, for the third time in 3 years, Musharraf deployed 80,000 troops to the tribal areas to crush anti-government elements, and without success. On the other hand, the president's promise to hold elections did come good. His military rule has rooted out corruption in the government with some success, and he's also secured billions of US dollars for one of the poorest countries in the world. And on that note of US dollars, just what do the election results mean for Pakistan's foreign policy? Will a change in government mean a change in the way Pakistan deals with the rest of the world? Well, relations with the US are unlikely to change significantly as the two parties leading in the polls remain broadly supportive of US ties. Again, India is likely to be eyeing events very closely since Pakistan broke away from India some 60 years ago. 3 wars have shaken the peace. And while relations have warmed, a final lasting peace remains elusive. The first-time concerns about the presence of Al-Qaeda and Islamic extremism will steer foreign relations with Pakistan. Still with us are our guests in Karachi, Zafar Hilali, former Special Secretary to Benazir Bhutto, a former diplomat as well. Political analyst Ahmed Qureshi is in Islamabad for us. And in Lahore, Rana Masood Ahmed, a member of the Punjab Assembly for the PMLN, who has just been re-elected. Gentlemen, welcome back to the second half of Inside Story. Let's go straight to Karachi and Zafar Hilali. Let's go back to that point I made just out of the break about this idea of anti-Musharraf campaigning. Ahmed Qureshi spoke about it a little bit earlier. How do you respond to that charge that your campaign was simply based around the other guy not being any good?
No, I don't think that's entirely true. Yes, certainly I think that the way Musharraf ruled Pakistan, he ruled Pakistan like Genghis Khan in the sense that there was absolutely no curbs and checks on him. And that's why it's going to be impossible to convert a man who ruled the country like Genghis Khan into a constitutional president. It won't work. His temperament, his genes aren't tailored for that. However, what I will say is that the people of Pakistan voted for, certainly the PPP, because they wanted a better future. Look at where we stand today. Inflation has never been higher. And they talk about, they give figures, which incidentally, which have been disputed by the World Bank about how much progress there has been. Today, for instance, 75% of Pakistan lives on under $2 a day. And now inflation is 12%. They talk about reserves increasing, but what good are reserves if that never reaches the common man? And now the next government will have to swallow a poison pill, as I keep repeating, because the economy is in such a mess. The people of Pakistan wanted deliverance from this sham prosperity, from sham economic development based on sham figures. And I think that is why that's why they turned to the PPP, which has always been a party of the poor, of the labor, and of the peasants.
Okay, so Zafar Hilali, they're giving us an idea of some of the problems facing Pakistan. Rana Masood Ahmed in Lahore. Let's forget President Musharraf for a moment. Why don't you tell me about what you and your party would do about all those issues which Zafar Hilali has just been telling us about?
The fact of the matter is that right now the people, they have voted for the change. And change for what? Change for better future. And now if you go back and what you were saying about Nawaz Sharif's government, previous Nawaz Sharif government, the thing is that the corruption charges, they were not proved, as I've told you before. And in Nawaz Sharif's period, the industry, there was an industrial revolution in the country and the masses, they were having a very better life. Right now, again, our goal is to bring stability to the country. Law and order situation, it is very worse right now. Terrorism, it is a very big factor right now in the everyday lives of the people of the Pakistan. So we have made a plan, and by the grace of God, we will be working on it, and we have made some, we will be going to restart the industry, because it is the most vital thing right now to do, because all the people, they are not getting any jobs, and because of that, the industry, it is not working. So the most important thing to do is to bring peace and harmony to the people of Pakistan, and we are working on that.
Okay, let's move to that second point I made out of the commercial break about the foreign policy situation in Pakistan. Ahmed Qureshi in Islamabad, how do you think major world powers will react to this vote? They'll obviously be pleased that there was a democratic election that passed off quite peacefully. What about the result, though?
Well, I don't know about the world powers, but I know one thing. It's good for us here in Pakistan to have a functioning democracy, even if it's not perfect. The reason being, and to have a strong parliament to some extent. And the reason being is that, frankly speaking, we need to sort of debate and put some limitations to the way we have been working with the Americans in the war on terror. We have been, frankly, for all purposes, we have been ditched by our American friends in Afghanistan. Afghanistan now has turned into a staging ground for destabilization into Pakistan. They talk about terrorists moving in from the Pakistani side to Afghanistan. We have major issues about the way some other players in the region are using the Afghan soil, and certainly some players right now in the Karzai administration, with the kind of attitude they have toward Pakistan. We're not happy with that. We think that after 9/11, the United States, our ally, has secured some of its interests in Afghanistan, but ditched and ignored the interests of its Pakistani ally. It should have worked both ways. It didn't. It worked for the Americans. It has not worked for us. So it's good to have a strong parliament that would openly debate everything, and maybe even put certain limits to the way we've been working in, or our role in this war on terror.
So just briefly, with that in mind, exactly who will steer Pakistan's foreign policy in the future, given, especially if we look at the US as you did, it's very much been Musharraf's relationship with the US, not the parliament as such.
It's true, but even President Musharraf, we've seen over the past few months, indeed over the past 1 year, we've seen even President Musharraf really sort of reconsidering some of his unlimited support that he's given to the United States. Certainly this realization has begun to dawn on President Musharraf and his advisors that we really have not been able to secure all of our interests in the region, and we have very important interests. And certainly the military institution, the Pakistani military, which has a very important stake and say in Pakistan's foreign policy, whether that's right or wrong, it's a different issue, but the fact of the matter is that for the past 60 years, for certain reasons, circumstances, the military has developed a role in a say in Pakistan's foreign policy.
Okay,
so
then.
we'll see a change, yeah.
We'll have to leave it there. Zafar Hilali in Karachi, Ahmed Qureshi in Islamabad, and Rana Masood Ahmed in Lahore. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us on Inside Story, and thank you, the viewer, for joining us. We welcome your comments, of course. Please send them to insidestory@aljazeera.net. Goodbye for now.